First brew. They used to call me the potion guy. Never Kellen, never Fenwick. Just, hey potion guy, heal me. Or potion guy, patch this up. I was the background character in my own story. The one who carried bandages, crushed herbs, and got the blame when something didn't taste quite right. But I didn't mind. Not at first. I joined Lara's party 2 years ago. Back then, I believed she was brilliant, brave, worth following. She was the kind of mage that lit up a battlefield and a room in the same breath. She knew how to lead, and more importantly, she knew how to be seen leading. And I knew how to boil water without burning it. That was enough for them. Enough for her. We weren't friends. Not really. But she smiled at me sometimes. Tossed a thanks over her shoulder when I stopped her bleeding. Called me sweet when I remembered how she liked her tea. Then one night, before a plague-cleansing mission into the Hollow March, she kissed me just once, just enough to mess with my head. I feel safe when you're around, she whispered. Didn't sleep at all that night. I followed her into the march with a pounding heart and a satchel full of antidotes. I was stupid. I thought we were finally something. Well, I was her insurance. We lost 2 members within the first hour. The Hollow March wasn't just sick, it was cursed. Runes bled out of the walls. Magic fizzled. Every enchanted item we carried either shorted or exploded, and when we reached the center, where the rot was deepest, Lara made the call. We're pulling out, she announced to the others. I was coughing up black by then, knees shaking, skin cold. Help me up, I rasped. She looked at me, really looked at me and said, You've done your part, Kellen. Then she turned away. Brick carried her. The others ran. I tried to crawl. My fingers slipped in the ash, and just like that, I was the one they left behind. I don't know how long I was unconscious. I remember the fever dreams, the way my skin hummed, the voices whispering in my veins, magic, soaking into me like rain into dry dirt. When I woke, my satchel was half melted. My robe was fused to my arm in places, but I wasn't dead. No rot. No plague. The others? Gone, ash, bones, but me? I was alive, and not just alive. Different. The runes on the walls pulsed when I looked at them. I could read them. I could feel their weight. Like someone had whispered secrets into my bones while I slept. I wandered for days, surviving on instinct. Spells came to me, not learned, not spoken. Felt. I healed a squirrel once with a glance. I shattered a stone just by hating it. I wasn't the potion guy anymore, and I wasn't going back. Not yet. Weeks later, I reached a town near the edge of the march, starving, barely human. I kept my hood low and used a false name. That's when I heard it. Lara Dren, hero of the Hollow March, returned from death. The only survivor! They built a statue. She told them I died first. That I panicked and ran. That she tried to save me. But I was too weak. She sold my research to Veskentrau, the nobleman who sponsored our party. She rose through the ranks like a phoenix on borrowed feathers. And I sat in the back of a tavern sipping tea that tasted like dust and smiled. She wanted a corpse? Let her keep believing in one, because when I return, it won't be for her approval. It'll be for the truth, and the truth doesn't beg. It burns. Second brew. You'd think surviving a magical plague would come with a moment of triumph. A sunrise, a choir, maybe a glowing mark on my chest declaring chosen one. Instead, I woke up face down in mud, coughing up blood that shimmered. I wasn't dead, but I wasn't human either. Not anymore. The Hollow March had sunk its teeth into me. What it left behind, well, I was still figuring that out. My skin itched with a kind of memory that wasn't mine. The cracked stones around me whispered spells I didn't know I knew. My fingertips sparked when I touched bone. My pulse hummed like something was singing under my skin. I should have been terrified, but mostly, I was hungry. I scavenged what was left of our supplies. My satchel was half melted. Most of the vials had shattered. The ones that survived, their contents had changed, glowed, pulsed, became alive. I drank one, the one labeled minor healing. It tasted like lightning and guilt, but it worked. The fever faded. The pain dulled. My vision cleared. I stood. The hollow march stretched in every direction like a bad dream. Charred trees, ash dunes, broken towers. It had once been a mage city. Before the spellblight came, some say the gods cursed it, others say the nobles did. All I knew was it had killed every mage who'd walked into it. Except me. I wandered for days. Maybe weeks. Time bent in that place. Sometimes the sun rose twice. Sometimes not at all, but I learned that runes would light up when I got close, that I could touch the remains of fallen mages and feel what they felt. Fear, pain, power. Started copying them, drawing their glyphs in the air, shaping their incantations, and it worked. Not perfectly, but enough. I cast my first spell without speaking a word. A barrier. It blocked a collapsing ceiling in an old chapel. Later, I tried to light a fire. The flame turned green and hissed at me. So I named it. Fed it bits of parchment. It followed me for 3 days before fizzling out. Magic was different now, wilder, hungrier, like it had rules, but I was exempt. The breakthrough came when I found a skeleton slumped against a rusted throne. Judging by the robes, he'd been a guild master. High rank, important. I touched his staff, and everything changed. Visions slammed into me. Spells not just seen, but remembered. Not like studying, like reliving. I collapsed. Woke up 3 hours later with burns down my spine, but I could float objects now, and heal broken stone. I even turned a rock into bread. Don't ask how it tasted. The Hollow March hadn't cursed me, it had chosen me. Or maybe I had simply survived long enough to earn it. Eventually, I found the old city gates, bent, twisted, partially collapsed. I stepped through, and the air changed. Normal, real, sharp. I was out, I made it, I laughed. Just once. Just enough to remember what it sounded like. Then I walked. Hood low, voice silent, power quiet. The world thought Kellen Fenwick was dead. Let them. The one they buried isn't the one that's coming back. Third brew. The first town I reached was called Emberthresh. Small, smoky, the kind of place that smelled like old stew and wet boots. Perfect for disappearing. I kept my hood up, my voice low. Paid for a room in copper and said I was a traveling herbalist named Thalen. No one questioned it. Why would they? To them, Kellen Fenwick was a name from a memorial plaque. The local inn had one, in fact. In memory of the Hollow March expedition, it read, 10 names etched in iron. My name was at the bottom, beneath the line, may their sacrifice cleanse the cursed lands. I laughed. The innkeeper asked if I was all right. I told him it was just the stew. I kept to myself for weeks, fixed things around town, brewed tonics, helped with minor illnesses. Not magic, just old tricks I remembered from my mother, but magic always itched beneath my skin. One night, a miner was brought in, bones shattered, organs failing. The local healer shook her head. Nothing to be done. I waited until no one was looking. Then I placed a hand on his chest, and I rewrote him, bone knitted. Blood cleared. Lungs stopped rattling. When he woke up the next morning, he thought it was a miracle. I didn't correct him. I just packed my things and left before questions could catch up. I moved town to town, leaving no names behind. But the whispers started anyway. They say a healer came through Eastbrook last month, wounds gone overnight. Old Lady Sharn could walk again, just after someone touched her knee. They say he wears a gray cloak and never looks you in the eye. I was becoming a story. A myth, and Lara? She was still the one the world celebrated. I watched from a tavern. Corner one night as a bard sang about the glorious lady. Dren, the one who braved the Hollow March and survived. She stood on stage beside the singer, modest smile in place, hands folded. She didn't correct a single lyric, didn't mention my name once. She knew I was alive. I could feel it. But she also knew what admitting that would cost her. Her fame. Her story. Her sponsors. So she told the world I was dead, and I let her. Because the longer she believed I was gone, the easier it would be to tear down everything she built on my bones. I found work as a tinker's apprentice in a city called Meyerwell. Big place. Plenty of shadows. My employer Gannett was half blind and mostly drunk. But he taught me how to repair enchanted gear. I learned how mages' staffs were built, how sigils layered, how wards bled energy when overused. It fascinated me. Not the objects, but the limits. Magic was like language. And I was becoming fluent in dialects no one else could even pronounce. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring into a mirror, studying my own eyes. They used to be brown. Now they shimmered. Just slightly. Like heat haze on stone. I hid them under a pair of tinted goggles Gannett gave me. Stylish, he joked. You look like someone important. I didn't tell him he was right. Then came the breaking point. Meyerwell fell ill. Something in the water, they said. Or maybe a curse. Dozens of people collapsed. Mages tried to cleanse it, failed, even Gannett got sick. I sat by his bed as he shook, muttering numbers, crying for a daughter who died a decade ago. I tried not to intervene, but I'd seen enough people die while better ones lied about saving them. So I walked into the town square, took off my goggles and said, I can fix this. They stared. I raised both hands, and I called the magic out of the ground. The sickness burned away in less than an hour. Meyerwell would live. But Kellen Fenwick? He was dead again. This time, the world would start to realize what it lost. Fourth brew. Funny thing about disappearing? You never really do it alone. After the Meyerwell incident, word of the ghost mage spread faster than a fire in a dry tavern. Some said I was an old god returned in human skin. Others said I was a rogue experiment from the tower. One tavern swore I rode into town on the back of a spectral elk named Harold. I didn't correct any of them. I had more important things to do. I traveled east, deeper into the lesser kingdoms, where the guild's influence was weaker and eyes were fewer. And there, in a broken village called Duskfern, I found her, not Lara, Edrelyn Venn. She had been our party's logistics officer, rarely spoke during missions, but always knew where to place a campfire so the smoke wouldn't blow into our tents. She was also the only one who'd ever treated me like more than a walking medicine cabinet, and now she looked like she'd barely survived a war. Edrelyn? I said, not bothering with an alias. She blinked. Kellen? I expected tears, maybe a scream. What I got instead was a sharp smack to the chest. You absolute idiot. I missed you too. She stared. They said you were dead. I shrugged. A convenient lie. I went back, she whispered. After the pullout. You weren't there. Just scorch marks and ash. Not mine, I said. Not yet. Edrelyn had been living among plague refugees, using her knowledge to distribute food and clean water. She wasn't a fighter, but she had a ledger mind, always planning, always watching. I stayed with her for 3 weeks. She helped me catalog the changes in my abilities, the way my body absorbed residual magic, the unnatural resistance I had to spell rot, the strange mimicry I could perform just by touching magical remnants. We started calling it echo casting. I shouldn't be able to do this, she muttered one night as I floated a dozen pebbles in a spiral pattern. Shouldn't have survived either, I replied. She looked at me carefully. You know what this means, right? You're not just immune, you're adapting, I nodded. And growing, she hesitated. You're not becoming dangerous. Are you? I gave a soft smile. Only to people who leave others behind. We parted when she was summoned by a regional governor to advise on plague containment. Will I see you again? She asked. I adjusted my cloak. Only if things go terribly wrong. Or terribly right. We both smiled at that. From there, I returned to the ruins of old mage towers, graveyards of spells and bones. Each one told a story, and I listened. Sometimes I heard weeping, sometimes laughter, sometimes just silence, the kind that hums in your bones and makes you feel like something ancient is watching. But the more I absorbed, the clearer it became. Magic wasn't gone, it was hiding, waiting for someone who wouldn't treat it like a weapon or a prize. I didn't tame it, I walked with it, and it followed. In Westmere, I healed a noble's son in secret. In return, he gave me access to his private collection of banned grimoires. Half were fakes. One nearly exploded, but buried in the bottom was a journal by a forgotten scholar. Named Vetan Mar Vetan wrote about resonant souls, people whose bodies act like tuning forks for raw magical energy. They were rare, unpredictable, and dangerous. According to him, the last known case was executed for heresy. I closed the book, and I didn't sleep that night. I trained. Not with swords. Not with incantations. With understanding. If I could feel a spell before it cast, I could stop it mid-air. If I could see the pattern in a glyph, I could rewrite it. If I could hear the hum of corruption, I could purge it. People came to me in secret. Sick villagers. Wounded soldiers. One time, a thief who just wanted to make his scars prettier. I didn't ask for gold. I didn't need thanks. But every time someone whispered, "He's not what they said," I felt something shift. The potion guy was gone, and in his place, something new. Then came the letter, delivered by Crow, no seal. Just 2 words. He knows. I didn't need to guess. Lara. She'd heard the rumors, seen the miracles, and for the first time in her perfectly manicured life, she was afraid. Good. Let her be. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. But soon. And when I did, she'd wish I'd stayed dead. 5th brew, it started with a bounty notice, a parchment nailed to the tavern board in Silvermere. Big red wax seal. Official. I wasn't even looking for it. Just wanted some stew, a dry place to sit, and maybe a book that didn't start with "Once Upon a Realm." But there it was. A sketch of a man with short, dark hair, goggles, and a cloak too plain to look mysterious unless you were trying very hard. The reward was outrageous. The crime? Unlicensed healing. Spell deviation. Arcane interference. Underneath it, someone had scrawled, "Ghost of the Hollow March." I smiled. They finally noticed. It wasn't just Lara anymore. Now the guild was watching. They didn't like unsanctioned magic. Especially not the kind that worked better than theirs, so I did what any responsible fugitive does. I kept moving, but I also started watching back. Silvermere was crawling with whispers. Bards singing about miracles. Old hedge witches muttering that the old ways were waking up. And Lara? She was here. Not in town, but close. I heard her name in passing. Rumors that she'd taken command of a research team near the asphalt border. A cursed ridge where magic storms shredded reality on odd-numbered days. She was studying it, they said. Trying to tame it. Of course she was. She'd always wanted to be the hero of the age. I suppose it helped that she edited the stories that way. I debated leaving. Honestly, I was going to, but then I saw her, Lara, in a gilded wagon, drawn by spell-bred elk, hair pinned back with silver fangs, armor polished like a mirror. She passed right by the tavern, and I swear for half a breath, her eyes met mine. No recognition, no hesitation, just that smug, disinterested look she always gave people she thought weren't useful anymore. I finished my stew in silence, then packed my things. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. But I was. Going to remind the world that the potion guy she used and tossed aside wasn't buried. He was blooming. I started working in the border towns, places the guild ignored, unless they needed taxes or scapegoats. I cleaned out a village well. Corrupted by bleeding runes, I purged a fungal hex infecting a lumber camp's children. I repaired a broken shield ward that had been stitched, together with prayer and hope, and people talked, not just about what I did, but who I might be. Some said I was a wandering mage prince. Others thought I was a fragment of the plague moon given shape, my favorite. The potion boy returns as the hex-born saint. Not accurate, but catchy. Lara's people noticed, not her. She was too busy hosting interviews with guild leaders and walking through cursed forest with an entourage. But her second in command, a frost mage named Marson, tracked me down. Found me in a shrine ruin, brushing snow off an old pillar. "Are you Kellen Fenwick?" he asked. I stood slowly. "Depends who's asking." He didn't smile. "Lady Dren wants to see you." "I'm sure she does," she said. "You owe her." That made me laugh. Owe her what? My life, my death? My silence? Martin didn't flinch. "She wants to clear the air. Tell her to breathe in the ash she left me in." I turned to leave, but his voice followed. "She doesn't think you're dangerous. You know?" That stopped me. I glanced back. "She will." I stayed near. Silvermere for another week. Long enough to stir things up, helped a few refugees, exposed a corrupt guild clerk draining spell licenses for personal profit, then vanished again. But before I left, I visited the ash vault, just for an hour, long enough to leave a rune behind, one that shimmered like gold and whispered like fire. When Lara found it, she'd know who left it and that he wasn't hiding anymore. 6th brew. I thought I'd be ready when she showed up. I wasn't. It happened in a market near the border of Redvale, 2 towns over from where I'd last been seen. I was helping a local butcher's boy ward his stall, just a simple shimmer glyph to keep the meat from spoiling too fast. Nothing heroic. Then she walked in like she owned the wind, Lara Dren in velvet. Of course, her boots had gold trim. Her bodyguard had a sword that hummed when you looked at it too long. I ducked behind a curtain of drying herbs. Not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't ready to waste good words on bad memories, but fate, as it turns out, has no manners. "Kellen Fenwick," she called out loud enough to make half the square freeze. My name, out in the open. From her lips, I stepped out slowly and said nothing. She walked forward, each step like punctuation in a sentence she thought she wrote. "You're alive," she said, smiling like she didn't already know that. "You're observant," I replied. People were staring. Of course they were. Lara was the war hero, the survivor, the symbol, and I was the ghost. She stepped closer. "I wanted to find you sooner." "No, you didn't." Silence. Then she tried again, softer. "We should talk. Privately." "You don't get to request privacy after you weaponize silence." More silence. Then the mask cracked. "Just slightly." "I didn't have a choice," she said. "You had every choice." I snapped, the words sharper than I expected. "You just picked the one with applause." That one hit. I saw it in the way her shoulders flinched. Then came the usual Lyra move, deflection. "I see you've grown," she said, eyeing the gloves I wore, the way my cloak shimmered faintly in certain light. "Your magic isn't for you," I finished. Her jaw tightened. She wasn't used to being interrupted. "You're angry," she said. "I'm awake." I stepped forward now, closing the distance. "You burned my name out of every report. You let them think I died a coward's death. You built a shrine on my silence. It wasn't like that. It was. And I let you. Because I thought you needed the win more than I needed the truth." She blinked. Speechless, but not crying. Lara never cried unless someone important was watching. "You don't understand." "What I gave up," she whispered. "I don't care." And I walked away. She didn't. Follow good, because there was nothing left for her to say, and I had no more apologies to make for surviving. 7th brew, Lara didn't chase me, but her name did. It floated from town to town like perfume. sweet and sharp and impossible to ignore. Every village I passed had a new story. Lara Dren banished a storm spirit. Lyra Dren calmed a hex beast. Lyra Dren negotiated peace between rival mage clans. She was everywhere, and she was always alone. No party, no mention of anyone else. She'd rewritten the past with herself as the only survivor. Fine, let her have the fame. I had something better. In a place called Holofin, in no relation to the March, just bad naming habits, and I found a broken ley line, not just frayed, ruptured. It was bleeding magic into the soil, turning the trees crystalline and the animals erratic. Dangerous stuff. The kind of anomaly the guild would normally send a full squad to deal with, except Holofin was small, poor, unaligned, not worth saving. I stepped in, sat in the middle of the ley line's wound for 3 days. No sleep, barely any food. Just spells, sweat, and stubbornness. And on the dawn of the 4th day, I sealed it. Not with wards, not with a chant, but with will. I became the lock. The forest wept mana for 2 more days, like it couldn't believe it had been heard, and then settled. People started leaving offerings at the place I sat. Not gold, not prayers, just simple things. A knitted scarf, a carved spoon, a song written by a child. I left them untouched, not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't a god. I was just the guy who refused to let silence win again. Rumors began to mutate. Some said I was building a sanctuary. Others claimed I was a failed archmage who'd turned rogue. A few even guessed the truth, that I'd been betrayed, abandoned, and survived anyway. Lara heard those too, because her letters started arriving. At first, formal. Kellen, I hope this message finds you well. The guild is reconsidering your case. Let's speak. Then desperate. Please respond. There are things you don't understand. Then hostile. You think this makes you noble. You're just hiding behind tricks and folklore. Burned them all, except the last one. That one I kept, because it reminded me of what it looked like when someone started losing control of their narrative. I wasn't hiding, was building something, not a legacy, not a rebellion, a standard, a new way to use magic, to treat power, where spells didn't need sacrifice, where mages didn't need permission to heal, where the truth didn't have to be pretty to matter. I met others like me. Quiet casters, rogue crafters, old healers who'd never sworn an oath to any guild, and I taught them what I'd learned. They called me teacher, master, saint. I told them my name was Kellen, just Kellen. Then one night, a traveler arrived, wounded, ragged, eyes wide with something too old for his face. He didn't speak at first, but when he did, he said, "They're coming. The guild, full force, with her." I didn't need to ask who her was. Lara was coming. And this time, she wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was looking for control too. Late. I wasn't the potion guy anymore, was the storm she taught to walk. 8 brew, they didn't. Knock. The guild never does when it wants to make a point. They arrived at dawn, 5 battle mages in silver plate, a scribe with ink-stained robes, and Lyra Dren, riding a pale wyvern like a general inspecting a siege. I watched them from the edge of the hollow. No alarms. No panic. My people weren't soldiers. They were healers, tinkers, half-trained hedgecasters who just wanted to live without fear. So I stood between them and the guild. No armor. No staff, just a cup of tea I hadn't finished. Lara dismounted like a queen returning to a throne. "Kellen," she said, "you're harboring unregistered casters. You're violating 3 accords." "Good morning to you too," I said, sipping. The scribe stepped forward, scroll already unfurled. "By order of the Guild of Unified Magics, these lands..." I raised one hand. He stopped. not magically, just instinctively. "Tell your mages to stand down," I said. "They don't want what happens next." Lara's jaw tightened. "You're outnumbered." "No," I said. "You're outdated." She tried logic first. "This isn't about you," she said, walking beside me as her mages pretended not to listen. "It's about the system, about maintaining balance." "You mean control, safety. For who?" That quieted her. I pointed to the forest beyond. "You know what's in there? A child who can conjure light from silence. An old man who heals with songs. A girl who dreamed a spell that made plants dance. They're untrained. They're free." She sighed. "You used to believe in order." "No, I believed in you." That landed like a slap. We argued for hours. Her voice was honeyed steel. Mine was gravel soaked in rain. She talked about risk, reputation, consequences. I talked about the people she left to rot. And when she finally realized she couldn't win the debate, she tried the last weapon she had. Me. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a bundle of parchment, tossed it at my feet, my old journal, the one I'd kept during the Hollow March. I picked it up, thumbing the worn pages. "You kept this?" "You dropped it in the ruins. You went back?" She didn't answer, but her eyes did. She had looked for me. Maybe not for the right reasons. Maybe not long enough, but she had. It almost softened me. Almost. Then I flipped to the back, to the page where I'd written, "If I die out here, at least let the truth survive." She had crossed it out, replaced it with, "He died as he lived, loyal to the end." That was the last line, her line, the one she gave to the bards. She hadn't just rewritten my ending, she'd stolen my pen. I looked up, and I finally let the magic breathe. The wind shivered. The trees bowed. Even the wyvern shifted uncomfortably. "I don't want war," I said, "but I won't be erased." Lara took a step back. I took a step forward. "You built your legacy on my silence," I said. "But you forgot one thing." She raised her chin. "What?" "I learned how to speak." She left by sundown. No battle, no flames. Just silence, but it wasn't over. Not yet, because the world was watching now, and the next time we met, it wouldn't be a conversation. It would be a reckoning. Ninth Brew. They didn't attack outright. Guild enforcers are like wolves. They circle first, test the air, wait for weakness, but I wasn't bleeding anymore. They tried sending inspectors to my camp. Observers, they said, scribbling in their books like they were documenting rare birds, asking pointed questions. "Where did you learn to ward like that? Why don't your students register? Do you charge for your services?" I answered none of them. Not because I couldn't, but because I knew they didn't care about answers. They were building a case. A neat little scroll to justify what they were going to do next. Still, I wasn't afraid. They had ink. I had thunder. I spent weeks strengthening the sanctuary, not with walls or weapons, but with knowledge. I taught children how to mask their magic in rhythm and rhyme. I showed teens how to heal wounds by syncing with their own breath. I trained older mages to unlearn what the guild had forced into them. The fear, the hierarchy, the ritual for ritual's sake. One of my youngest students, Arlen, barely 10, figured out how to make mushrooms glow when he was scared. He called them brave lights. I started placing them at the edge of camp. A warning, a promise. We weren't hiding anymore. Then, Lara returned. This time, no wyvern, no soldiers, just her and the rain. She waited outside the camp until I approached. "Kellen," she said, drenched and tired. "Try again," I replied. Her lips trembled. "I'm not here for a fight." "No, you're here for a rewrite." She flinched like I'd struck her. "I was wrong," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "You." That wasn't enough. "You'll have to narrow it down," I said. "There's quite a list. I thought you'd break." I thought without me you'd vanish. And instead, you built something. Pause, then she said it. I'm sorry, it didn't thunder then. But something louder broke inside me. I didn't forgive her, not yet, but I let her inside. Let her see the lights, the laughter. The community born from everything she discarded. She stayed one night, watched a boy mend a bird's wing with a lullaby, saw a woman purge a fever with a touch and a prayer. And then, at dawn, she came to me. I want to help, she said. I didn't answer, just looked at her. Because help from Lara Dren came with strings, and I wasn't a puppet anymore. You don't trust me, she said. No, I replied. But I'm starting to trust myself, she nodded. Then, for the first time in years, she walked away without trying to take something with her. That, at least, was progress, but I knew better than to think it was over. Lara was still Lara, and the guild wasn't done circling. But neither was I. Let them bring storms. I'd learned how to answer. And when I did, it would echo on Nth Brew. There's a moment in every rising storm when the wind stops pretending. It doesn't howl, doesn't scream, it just waits. That's what the air felt like the morning the guild returned in force. No letters this time, no lectures, just 3 sky cutters overhead, spellcasters hanging from harnesses, and a declaration of force woven into the clouds like a curse waiting to fall. The scouts saw them first. I was in the middle of helping a girl mend her staff, just a cracked focus gem. Nothing major when they called me. They've come, Arlen said, brave lights flickering nervously along his sleeves. I told the girl, finish without me. She nodded. Didn't cry. She'd seen worse. That's how I knew we were ready. At the edge of the sanctuary stood a line of mages. My students. My people. Most had never held a blade. But their magic didn't need one. I stood at the front. No armor. No crown. Just every lesson I'd learned carved into my bones. When the sky cutters descended, a guild commander stepped out. Shimmer-plate armor, gold-threaded cloak, the kind of face that had never been told no. You are Kellen Fenwick? He asked, like we both didn't know. Depends on whether this is a conversation or a condemnation. He didn't smile. This settlement is unregulated. Your actions violate 6 arcane mandates. You brought war to a garden. We brought order to chaos. Behind me, the wind shifted. The trees bent. The lights Arlen made began to hum. I stepped forward. No, I said. You brought arrogance to a place that doesn't need you. The commander raised a hand, and magic filled the air like pressure before a lightning strike. I didn't counter his spell. I didn't even flinch. I just raised mine. It wasn't flash or fury. It was truth. A ripple of echo magic surged from my palm. Years of absorbed pain, stolen magic and mended lives, all channeled into a single silent wave. It hit the guild line like a bell rung too deep. Their formations cracked one. Mage dropped her staff and stepped back. Another started crying, not because they were hurt, because they felt it. The lives they never saved, the people they turned away, the stories they buried. I walked toward the commander. He tried to summon a ward. It flickered and died. I stood inches from him and whispered, "You made me fire." He didn't respond, didn't move, didn't even breathe. Too loud. Just stared at the man he thought had died in the hollow. March? Then Lara stepped forward. She didn't wear armor, didn't carry a weapon, but she walked between us like someone remembering the person she used to be. "Kellen," she said low. "Stop." I didn't. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. I looked at the people behind me, at the broken, the exiled, the brave, and I said, "This is what you left behind, to Lara, to the guild, to every system that claimed they knew better." Then I turned and walked back into my people. The guild left within the hour, not defeated, but Undone after that, they stopped coming. No skycutters, no edicts. No more threats, just silence. The kind I chose, not the kind they forced on me. 11th Brew. The guild didn't return. But the world came knocking. It started with a hunter from the Frost clans up north. Said he heard we healed a curse wound no Frostbane could fix. Then came a sandwalker from the Ash Dunes. Her arm half melted from volatile glass magic. We saved that too, they kept coming. By foot. On beasts. Through portals left unguarded. They brought stories, wounds, warnings, but none brought fear, because we'd lived through worse. I wasn't a leader. Not by choice, I was a healer, a wanderer. Man who'd once brewed potions in the back of a tavern hoping no one important noticed he existed. Now they called me things. Lightbearer. Hollowborn. The Storm's Mercy, I answered to Kellen, but even I couldn't ignore what we were becoming. A sanctuary? No, this was a kingdom, not with thrones and taxes and bloody flags, but with choice, freedom. Magic unshackled from rules written in ivory towers. And slowly, the guild realized we weren't afraid of them anymore, which made us dangerous. They tried rumors next. Kellen Fenwick steals magic. Kellen's camp is a cult. His followers eat mana and worship stars. It would have been laughable if it didn't work. Some people turned away. Others grew wary. But the ones who stayed, they chose to, and that made us stronger. Lara stayed too. Not every day, but she came often. Quiet. Careful. Sometimes she helped in the gardens. Sometimes she watched my lessons. Once she left a letter on my table. It read, "If I had met this version of you first, I might have followed instead of led." Didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, because I wasn't ready to forget the price I paid to become this version. But I didn't burn the letter either. Progress.Kale returned. The artificer I thought had vanished for good. He came back with machines that sang and lights that healed, and armor that felt like silk but could stop a dragon's breath. He grinned and said, "Still saving people the slow way, Kellen?" I hugged him harder than I meant to. Together, we rebuilt half the outer walls, this time with enchantments that responded to need, not command. A sick traveler would trigger warmth, a crying child. Lullabies woven into light. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. Then, a letter came from the guild official sealed, no threats. No accusations, just one line, "You've made your point."
Perhaps it's time to talk. I smiled when I read it, because I finally
understood. They didn't want peace, they wanted relevance, but they were too blatant. I wasn't interested in compromise, was building something they could never control. And the best part? I wasn't alone. 12th Brew. She came at night, no escort, no cloak. Just Lara Dren standing at the edge of the camp with a letter in her hand and something that almost looked like shame in her eyes. I didn't call out, didn't wave. I just waited. And when she stepped forward, I didn't step back, because I wasn't the one who had to explain anymore. "I signed it," she said quietly, holding out the letter, the guild's last offer. "They want to merge our schools, absorb yours into theirs, pretend they always supported what you're doing." I took the letter, didn't open it. Why bring this to me? Because I wanted you to see what I've become. You mean what they let you become? She didn't argue. That was new. We walked through the sanctuary, past glowing mushroom lights and students practicing spells under moonlight. Kyle's wind chime wards tinkled above the library, tuned to the laughter of the young. Lara said nothing, just took it all in like she was memorizing it. When we reached the fire circle, I finally spoke. "Why now?" She sat slowly, like the weight of the question pressed on her spine. "I thought the guild would protect the world," she said. "I thought obeying meant saving lives. And now? Now I see that it meant saving themselves." I nodded. "Progress." She handed me a second letter, unsealed, handwritten. Her words. You once asked what I gave up. The truth is, I gave up myself. I let their praise shape my spine. I let their approval cut my tongue. But watching you rebuild what they tried to erase, I remember who I was before I wore a title like armor. I folded it. Not out of anger, out of something else. A memory of two young casters in the hollow march, terrified and determined, promising each other they'd change the world. One kept the promise, the other forgot it ever mattered. She looked at me, eyes glistening. Kellen. Do you think it's too late? To fix what? Us. I didn't answer, because some silences aren't cruel, some are sacred, and some things, like trust, don't return just because you missed them. That night, she left before dawn, didn't say goodbye, didn't need to. We both understood something now. Her regret had come too late. But mine had already burned, and in the ashes, I built something better. 13th Brew. There was a time when my name was whispered with pity. Kellen Fenwick. Isn't he the one who... Yes, I was the one who got left behind, the one who got... betrayed. The potion mixer. The expendable. But that was before the fires, before the ley line healed in Holofen, before the guild tasted their own silence. Now they say my name with something else. Some call it defiance. Some call it heresy. Some call it hope. I didn't want a kingdom, didn't want students or titles or a faction to represent, but when the world keeps trying to erase you, every breath you take becomes a kind of rebellion. I didn't shout, I didn't conquer, I taught, I healed, I listened, and word spread across regions, across guild borders, that there was a place where power didn't cost your soul, where magic didn't need pedigree, where Kellen Fenwick, yes, or that Kellen, welcomed anyone brave enough to want better. It started small, an apprentice. In the Ivory Guild renounced her oath. A battle mage, defected from the Crystal Legion. A highborn scion tore his seal from his robes and carved my sigil into his sword. They found me. They stayed, not to fight, to build. Kyle brought news. They're holding a conclave, he said. All factions. Even the remote ones, I raised an eyebrow. Guild-wide? Every chair. And? They've put your name on the docket, I laughed. Sharp and tired. As a threat? As a proposal. I stopped laughing. They want to fold you into the system, he said. Make you part of the guild. Let me guess. I'd keep my school. My students. My magic, so long as I pledge. Exactly. I didn't respond right away, because I knew the moment I said no, everything would change, and I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I was sure of one thing. I wasn't afraid anymore. That night, I stood before my people, not on a dais. Not behind a pulpit, just near the fire, where stories felt honest. They want us to kneel, I said. A few shifted nervously. They want to call this mercy. A compromise. A way forward, I paused, then smiled, but we've already found our way. Silence. Then, one voice, Arlen. He whispered, we follow you. Kellen. And then others joined. Not chanting, just speaking. Naming. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the broken boy from Hollow March. I felt like a banner, not one made of silk or sigils, but of belief. So I wrote back to the guild. 7 words. We decline. Stay out of our way. Final brew. They asked. Years later, if I ever missed the old world, the guild halls, the missions, the parties where everyone wore secrets heavier than their cloaks. I didn't answer with words. I just opened the gates to what we'd built, stone grown from wild seed magic, walls pulsing with life, laughter echoing from one tower to the next. Students sprinting barefoot across grass that hummed when touched. This was never a rebellion. It was a reclamation. Lara didn't return after the final letter, not to apologize. Not to beg, she sent one final message, delivered by wind, an old trick we once practiced together in the Hollow March. I was wrong. You weren't meant to follow. You were meant to lead. I burned it, not out of hate, out of finality. Sometimes closure isn't found in forgiveness. It's found in letting go of the apology you were never owed. Kyle stayed. He made the walls smarter, the wards gentler. Built a forge that sang and laughed when it finished a project. When people asked who I trusted with my life, I pointed to the man who once taught me that broken doesn't mean ruined. Saris returned. Eventually, older, bolder, she brought spell prints for protection magic I'd never seen. Said she learned them in the far courts beyond the Barrier Sea. She hugged me once. Said nothing, then kissed my cheek like we were still those same kids in the ruins. Hoping the world would notice us, she never confessed. She didn't need to. Some bonds are louder in silence. The guild? They shrank. They still exist, but only because the world loves hierarchy even when it hurts. But the balance shifted. Now, they ask before they decree. Now they listen before they condemn, not because they learned, but because we taught them. My name? They still say it, in stories, in songs, on banners stitched by those who never met me. Kellen Fenwick, the Echoborn. The storm who healed instead of burned. The man who once made potions in the dark and now lights fires no one can put out. But when people ask me who I am, I say, just a man who got tired of waiting for permission to matter, and now? I build places for others to do the same. The fire never went out. It became a hearth, and that was always the point.
Thank you for sharing this chapter with us at Velvet Chapters Brew. Comment, like, and subscribe to see where the next page takes us.